you were part of propping up the Iranian terrorist regime. How do you sleep at night with that?
The silence is loud.
How you doing? Why are you covering your face in a keffiyeh?
Why have you got an Australian accent?
Because I'm Aussie. Do you like it?
Can you say kangaroo?
Kangaroo. Now, can you tell
Oh,
me why you're wrapped in a keffiyeh?
because I live in a free world where I can do whatever I want
God,
freely.
God bless. I agree with that, but why? That
The
doesn't mean you
power of democracy. Something that which is being taken away by Israel,
to who?
by Netanyahu.
Whose democracy is he taking away?
Israel's.
He's taking Israel's democracy away. How's he doing that? You know how many elections there's been in Israel in the last 6 years?
He's trying to change the what's it called, the system of the judges in Israel so that they have more control over the system. And I don't agree with that.
I know what you're
Which is why
talking.
you should
Is
only
that your
vote
problem with
for
Israel? Is that the problem?
you should only vote for Yair Golan or Lapid if you want democracy in your country. Ben
Ah,
Gvir is a piece of shit. Smotrich is a tiny piece of shit, and Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. So absolutely not.
you know what? I actually appreciate. I have no problem with you having that opinion. That's fine. I think there's a lot of Israelis that agree with you. But do you agree that Israel has the right to at least exist?
I think there should be one state.
Once, how's that state going to work?
It should be formed of all the different communities that live on the land.
Okay, so my family's from Yemen. Um, a lot
Of
of my other
course.
a lot of my other families from different Arab lands. They lived under as minorities in Arab lands. It didn't end very well for Jews. So how do you safeguard? So for those Jews, for those who do believe in a one state like you do, or that they're willing to accept it, how would you guarantee their safety? Because the idea of Israel is a safe haven for Jews around the world. So from every country, including where my family came from, how would you guarantee their safety if they're not autonomous?
Of course, you would need, the police to invoke the safety of all the citizens. But all I'm saying is the new state, okay, should be full of the people who were removed during the Nakba. They should be allowed to return back to the land that they were living on, and then the new government, which should be a democratic government that the people elect, okay. So
Yep.
if people elect the new government, of course, it's gonna have like quite a lot of Jewish MPs and Arabs, and it's gonna have like even Druze part of the community, because you need to safeguard
So
all
it would be
parts.
similar. So it would be similar to what we see in Israel today. You're just saying to introduce the other
But
Palestinians.
absolutely not. We don't need people. We don't need the disgusting far right that actually
No, no,
promote
no, 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 no,
violence.
no.
We don't
Okay,
need them
but
people.
stop going back to them. It'll be the same as it is today because today Israel is a democracy where the Arabs and the Druze and everyone within the state of Israel has an equal vote and share all the same rights. So all you would want to take away is the Jewish state, and then you would want to a right of return for Palestinians from Gaza, the West Bank. Correct me if I'm not understanding you right. Gaza, the West Bank, and I guess Jordan and Lebanon and
The
Syria.
whole world.
So all Palestinians should be allowed to return. So then essentially Jews would turn into a minority within Israel, correct? Yeah?
I think it'd be equal, no?
No, it wouldn't even be close. Jews would be a minority to begin with, and then they will turn into a very large minority over time, just because of uh, how the Islamic
But
community.
listen, my reasoning behind it is not to make the Jews a
No,
minority.
no, no. I understand your intentions, and I'm taking you on face value that you're coming from a good faith, like from a good place. That you're not trying to destroy, or have all the Jews annihilated. I get what you're saying. My point is, with the Jewish experience, both in Arab lands, European lands, historically everywhere, how would you safeguard the Jews when they become a minority in that land? Have you so when you talk about, Jews living, which is what they'll be living under, is under Arab rule, it's never turned out well. So why would this one be any different, especially with the animosity that is currently held by most of the Arab world?
I think, okay, I think it's gonna, it is gonna be hard. I can't lie, because it's very hard to change a lot of what's it called? A lot of views. When people have lived their entire life having a view. Uh, so I understand why I don't know, you might think a two-state solution is better, but the only reason I don't agree with that is because I feel like the one of the states, yeah, they will end up fighting the other state, and it'll just happen again. It'll be a continuous cycle. Okay, so
And that may be right. I hope that's not the truth, but it seems like a better option than turning it into one state. So giving
but then
Muslims,
who will get Jerusalem? Who's gonna get Jerusalem?
again, these are points that it's a complex issue, and if we can agree that it's complex and it has to come down to negotiation, that's the starting point. But to just say we're going to force everybody into one state and give essentially the Arabs another state in the Middle East and take away the one Jewish, how many Islamic states are there? And there's not even
But
one.
Islamic states have not got anything to do with the argument,
Why not?
because I don't understand why you're linking that to
Because many of them,
Palestine.
well, because the point is that there is only one Jewish state in the world, and there's about, I think, 22 Islamic states, including Muslim states that before 1948 were essentially the same people. So whether it's Jordan or Egypt or whatever, so there are several. My point is that there's several other options for the Palestinians, but there's no other option for the Jews. And I would argue in that case, all you are actually advocating for is to have the Jews wiped out. You may not mean it, but that's what you're essentially arguing for.
Nah, I don't think, because there's other religions, like I don't know, like Sikhism, or they don't have a state. They live in India, for example, or like, so there's other
Have
religions
you
out there.
have you ever picked up a history book? Have you looked at the history of the Jewish people from beginning of time?
So you're saying that because you guys used to live there when it was Judea and Judea and Samaria, I think.
Well, I say that's one argument. Do I think it's particularly valid today? Probably not, because I think, living in Australia, I think that, do the Indigenous people of Australia have a right now to Australia? Probably not. That's the law of conquest, a bit like in Israel. So no, I agree that they're the actual Indigenous people, but that doesn't automatically give you the right to it. What gave them the right to it was the fact that in 1948 they accepted the partition plan. All the Arab world rose up and tried to wipe Israel off the map. They lost, and they lost essentially every war since then that they tried to wipe Israel off the map. And Israel has survived it, against all odds. Now they're a super mighty force, but they weren't always that. So looking forward, as somebody who wants to see peace in the Middle East more than anything in my life, I think that you have to you have to be reasonable with
The
your
only
expectations.
the only the only way you're gonna get peace in the Middle East if you destroy the Islamic Republic of Iran. Without destroying the Islamic Republic of Iran, you're never gonna get peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, I'm not going to debate that issue with you. I agree with you. So it's interesting to me because you actually seem reasonable, and it sounds like you're coming from a decent place. And can I just go back to the beginning and ask you? I'm just fascinated why you're wearing the keffiyeh. Is it a political statement? Like, why are you doing that?
I told you, I just live in a free world.
Yeah, but you could have chose any other piece of clothing.
To be
And
fair, this is not the actual Palestinian
no,
one,
it's
so
I think is it a Jordanian or Iraqi one, the red one? I don't know. It's what, but
yeah.
it's making some sort of statement. I'm not saying it's a Palestinian one. I'm just trying to understand why. And you
It's a
seem to
good.
care about the issue.
It's a good opening for a debate.
Oh, true. I no, I that's true. That's true. What's your background?
My background, I'm British.
Are you white British?
Yeah, I'm so white.
Oh yeah, all right. No,
Can you
listen,
see? Can you see?
I wasn't. I didn't know. I couldn't see. Now I can see. So what's your background?
I just told you I'm white British.
Your hand doesn't look that wide. Is it not your? Is it?
Maybe it's 4 a.m. in Israel. Maybe it's the sleep.
And so why do you care so much about this issue?
Because the suffering of the Palestinians that's happening right now is not acceptable in today's society or today's world where we actually can see what's happening in the world. You know, in the past, for example, when the Holocaust was happening to the Jewish people, we just used to get what the government tells us. You know, we didn't really have an alternative. But now that we can actually see images coming from inside Gaza, you know, we shouldn't this shouldn't be accepted. Uh, and also because the UK supplies weapons to Israel, we have a duty as British citizens to speak up when we don't agree how the weapons that our government sells to Israel are being used.
So you don't agree with the way Israel's prosecuting this war. Did you think Israel had a right on after October 7 to respond at all?
Of course, it had a right. If listen, okay. By the way, are you a streamer or something?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. um, 1 second. My trail of thought went. Uh, yeah. So basically, if somebody's taken your hostages, um, if listen, if Hamas or if any group, right? I don't support Hamas, by the way, just
Yep.
to clarify.
I'm
Um,
getting that. I'm getting that sense by the way you're
if any
talking.
group, if any group attacked Israel and only killed IDF soldiers or only took IDF soldiers as hostage, you know, I wouldn't really care because as a soldier, you know, these things are
Sure,
it's kind
but
of
that's not what they
part of the
did.
job.
But that's not what they did.
But
So
that's my
yeah,
point. That's my
yeah.
point. So by them killing innocent civilians or taking innocent civilians as hostage, you know, that's the part that makes Israel have somewhat of a point. But at the start
Well,
of
well,
the
well,
war,
well. Yeah.
I don't think the point is valid anymore.
Okay. So you thought at first it was valid, and now you
No,
think
no, I mean it was valid, but I feel like if what's happening right now is just the government, the current government is using it as an excuse.
no, okay. But I
Yeah.
want to understand your perspective. So you thought it was valid at first, and then it became. Tell me if I'm putting words into your mouth. It became a disproportionate response.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So how would you suggest Israel? So there are two things we agree. You don't like Hamas. Do you agree that they should not be ruling Gaza, even just for the Palestinians'
Listen,
sake?
Hamas won the elections. Was it in 2013?
To 2006?
Oh, never mind. I got another year in my head. So 2006, right? And there haven't been an election after that, right?
No.
So listen, if Hamas won in an election like 3 years ago, and the people of Gaza voted for Hamas, it's a different story. But I feel like a lot of people, because when they won the first election, they won by like 50 something percent.
Yeah, and then there was a coup there. There was a fight, and they threw
So
all
you
their.
know,
Yeah.
maybe if they did an election like 3 years ago, they wouldn't have won. So you never know. But anyways,
I agree. But
the point is,
go back to my point. I'm saying, do you agree
yeah,
on
they
the?
shouldn't be governing. Yes, they
So they
shouldn't be
shouldn't be
governing.
governing, and that all the hostages must be returned. Correct?
all civilian hostages first. Yes.
All civilian hostages must be returned. We can agree on those
Yes.
two things. How do you suggest that Israel, if you were in charge, how would you achieve that in a way that you would be happy with?
By doing a deal.
Okay, so there have been numerous deals done until now. Those deals, how do you think that they actually managed to get those deals done? Why do you think Hamas even agreed to the terms of those ceasefires?
The Hamas agreed to the terms of the ceasefire because, they wanted aid into Gaza. Number one. Number two, they wanted their own prisoners to be released. And number three, uh, yeah, I think mainly those 2 points. Yeah.
I think you're skipping probably the most important
Maybe
one of it
what's
is
the
that
most important one?
they needed a break from the fighting. They were getting annihilated.
Yeah.
They are from top down. They're getting eliminated on the battlefield. So they needed that break. And so it's precisely that kind of pressure that allows a deal to happen. So again, a deal just doesn't come out of thin air. A deal comes because you've made the circumstances in which the other person wants to negotiate. So again, I agree with you, negotiation. And the negotiation has to achieve the two outcomes that we agree that we want. Hamas at the end of the day is gone, and that the hostages are released. Now, if the fighting stops, but they don't agree to those terms, then how do we achieve it without Israel again fighting? How do you do it?
So I think Egypt proposed a ceasefire deal in which there would be a new government of Gaza. Listen, one thing Hamas has made clear in this entire ceasefire proposals is that it will never militarily disarm. That's one thing is made clear. Okay, regardless of whether it's the government of Gaza or not. Okay, so I think there should be a new government of Gaza. But listen, I think that what the IDF has done has basically got rid of any of the abilities that Hamas had before. So I think,
That's
in a
not
sense,
true. That's not true. They fired rockets a few days ago. They've militarily destroyed a lot of their capability. But from an Israeli's perspective, if you don't finish the war with the two aims that were the two stated aims from the beginning that you and I both agree on, then all that's going to happen is, if you allow them to continue, they're going to rebuild and rebuild what they've lost over whatever amount of time, and they're going to commit atrocities, the same atrocities again. Plus, they don't get back their civilians. So again, I want to ask you how. So you got to give me, because you don't like the way they're prosecuting it. So you have to actually give me an alternative, a viable alternative. How do we do the two things that you and I both agree need to happen?
again, only a ceasefire deal, because the war you've been on it for like 19 months or
I
20 months
agree. I
now.
agree. But you
And
realize for a
listen,
ceasefire deal, you need both sides to agree. And Hamas is not agreeing to give up power or give in the hostages, for that matter. So how do we achieve it? It sounds good in theory. I agree with you. If today there was a deal that would give back the hostages and a ceasefire in which Hamas would lay down their arms, I'm with
I
you.
think also the world, like, not Israel, but Israel needs to accept the fact that you cannot destroy Hamas's ideology.
Really? You couldn't destroy the ideology of the Nazis? I know a lot of Germans today. They're pretty cool people. Are you
Because
are you
look,
are you saying Muslims don't have the power to change their ideology? Do you think
I'm
that?
not. I'm saying that this is not to do with Muslims, okay? Because not, if you speak to a lot of the Muslims in the world, a lot of them are like me too. What I'm trying to say is that, like, Israel has said it's killed 17,000 Hamas fighters, right?
Sure.
And America has claimed that all those Hamas fighters have been replaced now. So they've
Sure.
gone back to the original 30,000 I think they had. So that's my point to you, is that it's almost impossible to get rid of Hamas as an ideology.
I think it's a hard job. Hence, we're here in what's the date in June of 2025, and it's still going on. But you can't argue that the capability of that terrorist organization has been largely destroyed, and they have to go until the end, and the end is for the two-stated aims. This is not just about the ideology. I think that's another problem. That's another problem we need to face, and that's another problem we need to fight. And I think
But
that's more of an
yeah,
education thing within. I think that's a problem that we have to deal with after the war, once the hostages are back and Hamas is not in charge. Because I can guarantee you this ideology is never going to be destroyed while Hamas rules it, while Hamas on TV every day is glorifying Islamic terrorism, the murder
but do
of
you not
innocent
think
Jews.
that what the settlers do in the West Bank is also a form of terrorism?
What settlers are doing in the West Bank is a form of terrorism. I think that there are individual Jews that do bad things. I agree, but I think when you're comparing a systematic, top-down glorification of terrorism in comparison to single individuals, maybe in small communities that are encouraged by local government, but across the board within Israeli society are generally condemned. I think there's a big difference. But yes, I do think. Listen, I think that Israelis and even Jews in the state of Israel also had terrorist like if you look at the early days between the 20s and 40s, yes, absolutely, there was some
Like I don't
bad,
know if you saw on Jerusalem Day in
shocking, disgusting,
the
hate it.
what's it called? And I don't know why they're all teenagers. First of all, so that means they've been
because
told
because
by
because
people that are older.
and it's funny you say that. A lot of the kids, what you saw on Jerusalem Day were a bunch of kids, teenagers, that just like on the other side throw stone. These kids are disgusting and vile and should be condemned, and I condemn the way that they behave. I don't think it represents Israeli society, and you can't take these specific examples. When you start showing me Israelis and Jews around the world and supporters of Zionists acting in the way that we're seeing all of the pro-Palestinians acting both inside of Israel and around the world, then come back and talk about, don't give me this small group of teenagers marching on Jerusalem Day through Jerusalem like absolute idiots. Yes, I condemn that. Do you condemn today the terrorist attack in America?
I mean, at the moment, it's not been classed as a terror attack, but I do condemn the burning of the Jewish
What would you
people. Yeah,
classify it as?
I would classify it as a hate crime.
A hate crime. So firebombing a group of Jews.
No, like I don't know all the details yet. I like it's only been
Did you not
reported
see the
recently.
videos? Did you not see it?
No,
Like
no, I just checked the news and it said that somebody was spraying some liquid and he burned people, but
a guy called
uh,
Mohammed something. He had some liquid of firebombing.
listen, it's a fresh story. I don't know all the
Oh,
details
sure.
yet.
Okay, but you recognize that around the world there is a rise in Jew hatred and violence against Jews, including the murder of two in Washington,
But there's
D.C.
also a rise in Islamophobia too. You have to understand that
How
too.
many how many Muslims have been shot dead recently on the streets of any city in the name of in the name of Israel?
I can't give you an answer to that because
I
I've not done
can.
the
I
research.
can. Zero. Zero. So this comparison that you keep making is completely false, and I can
I know, but
understand.
I'm just saying to you that there is a rise in Islamophobia. That's my point.
Okay, and I'm not denying that, but why do you have to bring that up when we're talking about something, a rise of Islamophobia? What does that even mean? That people don't like Muslims? Like, why do you have
Yeah,
to?
people are attacking Muslims. I'm talking about the UK, but yeah.
Okay, so what kind of cases are, and is it in is it in the name of Israel? Like, you are comparing like a general random statistic to what is clearly, if you're honest and you have two eyes, a very, very frightening rise in Jew hatred that is not only like words, you're talking about there are people being killed around the world in the name of the cause that you're defending.
And I don't think that's good. I think that's disgusting that people are killing innocent people. Yeah.
So why is your natural response when we bring that up? Why is your natural response going, oh yeah, but there's people that hate Muslims as well? Why can't you just turn
Sorry,
it?
it came across. I said sorry, it came across like that. I didn't mean it.
Okay, no, so I appreciate that. So no,
Anything,
look,
anything I do, I don't do intentionally in a negative way.
no, I know, I know, I get that because I've been talking to you for a while now, and you do seem like this does seem like it's in good faith, even though I was a bit thrown by your your choice of clothing. But but the fact is that kind of unconscious bias that so many people who I think are well meaning have is part of the problem. And so even if you think you're advocating for something right, your behavior is kind of part of the problem. The fact that you just can't go, yeah, I can see there was a dude this morning who threw firebombs at a group of Jewish kids, and so a rally of Jews, including little kids. That is wrong. Your first reaction to that is, oh, it hasn't been deemed a terrorist attack. Really,
No,
really?
no,
If
you
if it
said
was
no.
if it was a Jew that threw it at a group of Muslims at a pro-Palestinian rally, you would immediately condemn it, not question it.
No, listen. You said, do you condemn the terrorist attack that
Uh,
happened? I said,
okay,
I
the
don't know if
attack.
it's
You
a,
condemn the
I
attack.
don't know if it's a terrorist attack, but I do condemn it. That was my words, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't. I was just saying that I don't know all the facts about it
Do
yet.
you think that the pro-Palestinian movement around the world does have a problem with violence?
Um, in generally, I think there are some instances. This is from my own experience, but generally, I think it's been quite peaceful in the UK.
Do you think, though, that there is a problem of violence within the pro Palestinian movement around the world?
Um, it's a hard answer. I'm just
Is it
trying to
hard? Is it
think.
hard because you don't because you know the truth, but you don't want to be honest about it because
No,
it
no,
kind of
it's
doesn't
not hard
suit the
because of that. It's
narrative?
because I'm trying to think of like how, like, what do you mean by violence in the movement?
Well, there's a lot of campaigners in the name of Palestine perpetrating acts of violence, usually targeted at Jews or, as they describe, Zionists. Do you agree that that is a problem within your movement?
I think that that is a problem if that's
With,
happening around the world. Yes,
within your movement? So,
within. Listen, I can only talk about what I've seen in my own experience, right? So in my own experience, generally, of course, there have been some instances, but generally, we have been very peaceful, and I haven't seen much violence in my own experience. In other countries in America, it might be a different story, but I can't really tell you if there is or not because I don't live there.
no, listen, I'm talking about in Australia. I'm talking about all around the world. And seriously, I appreciate you. I think that this is great. And if, I think that if this was the way your movement generally behaved and we could talk, you wouldn't see the horrific violence we're seeing across the world, whether it's here in Australia, in the UK, and in America, in Canada. We wouldn't see any of that because people have mutual respect. We may differ in the political view, in the solution, even in the problem, but we can actually talk it out and we found some common ground. But that's not happening within your movement because there is so much vitriol,
Listen, you
so
know why
much
that's not
pure
happening?
hate.
Because everybody has different. Everybody wants different solutions to the issue.
Sure, you and I want different solutions, but I am not worried that you're going to come and kill me, and I don't think you're worried I'm going to come and hurt you.
No, I no man. Nobody wants to get.
Okay, but that's not my experience in many of these interactions, whether it's here or more in real
To be
life.
honest, I'm gonna say the same thing. Like when I have been to protests, I trust me, I have been threatened by pro-Israelis with, threatening to attack me. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not trying to like say that that it doesn't happen on both sides, but from my own experience, I have seen people
Let
so
me ask you this: Are
people who
you
have.
are you genuinely worried to walk through any neighborhood in the UK with a keffiyeh on?
No.
No. Do you understand that a Jew walking through many neighborhoods in the UK do feel worried with a kippah on or something that identifies them as a Jew? Do you understand that?
I mean, I hope they don't feel like that.
Well, I guarantee you, I know they do. And many
Listen,
Jews have...
I don't really, I can't really tell you if, like, I can't give you an answer to that because I don't know much about what Jews are feeling like in the UK because I don't
Well,
really have many
I
Jewish
guess the
friends.
reason why I asked you if you're worried to walk around with a keffiyeh is because you know nobody's going to attack you. You know why Jews are worried to walk around many neighborhoods, especially in the UK, visibly Jewish, because they will get attacked, because they do get attacked. You know you won't get attacked. They will get
Listen, if
attacked.
a Jewish person was getting attacked, trust me, I'd be the first one to defend that person.
I believe you. I believe you, but that's not my point here. My
Yeah,
point
I
is,
know what your point is. I know what your point is.
and I think then we can also take that point and apply it to the Middle East. It's a deep-rooted problem that started way before October 7, and you know the pro-Palestinian movement loves to say it didn't start on October 7. They either ignore what happened on October 7, minimize it, pretend it was all fake, whatever, and they say it didn't start, and it didn't start before October 7. It didn't start in 1948 either. It started long before that, and there is a deep-rooted hate in which is the exact reason why Jews need one safe haven around the world. And they can't have one state in which they're going to be a minority just like they are anywhere else in the world. In fact, it's probably worse because in a Western democratic society where it is not majority Muslim, then they're probably going to be worse off there. So one state that they need, everything that we've seen happen since October 7 has proven the reason why Jews need a state, a safe haven in the world.
Look, I agree with you that they should be safe, you know, but we just have different views about the solution.
I agree. You know, I think the first part of the solution is probably more of this, more conversation, and I appreciate you doing it. Genuinely, I hope people watch this and then they go, they get somewhat inspired to.
Hopefully, no one recognizes me, but yeah.
I can guarantee it's pretty hard to recognize. You haven't given much away.
Nah, I won't.
Brother, listen, stay safe, and I hope when you're out there in those protests, you encourage your peers to be more like how you are in this conversation, because I don't know how you are out in the protest, but if you're like this out in the real world, I'd hope you'd encourage your peers who are protesting about this one issue. Have you ever protested about any other issue? Because you seem super passionate about
the protest. So we did a protest for what's it called, Sudan.
You did one for Sudan?
Yeah, one for Sudan and one for 1 second. Yeah, so one was for the Kashmir. You know Kashmir?
Yep.
Yeah, and then also for
the
Yemen too.
Pakistanis in Kashmir. Is that what you're talking about?
So, for the people in Kashmir.
Yeah, but is it the Muslims or something? Look, I'm not that well versed on that whole conflict, to be fair. But the Sudan. So you've done Sudan, for example. You've done one for Sudan and one for Kashmir. Is that it?
One for Egypt.
What for Egypt?
So against dictatorship.
This is a protest you went to.
Yeah, I went to it. And then one for Iran too.
Against the Iranian
regime. Yeah.
Regime, yeah. See, that's interesting. A lot of the pro-Palestinian people wouldn't go to those.
A lot of I don't think a lot of people know exactly what's going on in Iran, and you know, if you actually do the research into that, it's completely disgusting. The entire country is held hostage. The entire population is held hostage by one person who would kill his own people because they don't wear a headscarf.
Mate, you're preaching to the choir here. Have you ever had this conversation within your pro-Palestinian circles?
No, I mean, to be honest, when I go to the protests, we're so in the moment. I don't really have time to talk to people. But when there's people on the other side with the Iranian flags, because they always are, because they
On the other
link
side,
their
yes.
on the pro-Israel side, they
Yeah.
always carry the Iranian flags,
But they
because
not
they
the,
think
they're carrying though
the
the
Persian flag, yeah, the
the
Persian
Persian
flag.
flag, not the current Islamic revolution, the
No, it's
Islamic
the one with
Republic flag. Yes.
the sun and the lion. Yeah.
Yes, because they agree with what you're saying now. My question to you is so
And I always shout at them, "Free Iran!" Like, I don't think they hear me, but I always shout it at them.
sure, but so more interesting to me is this conversation why you don't have it with your pro-Palestinian peers because you'd probably get lynched for saying that to them.
Now, sometimes no. After the protest, like when there's an Iranian flag, I do tell them like, oh, like, and sometimes I actually wear a T-shirt saying "Free Iran" to the Palestinian protests. So
You say free Iran to the Palestinian protest, but
no,
you've
no,
never
no.
had
I
it.
have a T-shirt. I have a T-shirt that says "Free Iran."
Yeah, but they don't. They I don't know what they if people know what it means. But
Yeah, but I get what you mean, because Iran is not the main topic of the protest, which is why I don't
sure,
wear it.
but everybody at those protests, almost everybody at the protests that you're joining, actually believe Iran are the good guys.
I can't tell you because I've never had a conversation about it.
Why do you think that is? Why have you not had conversations with the pro-Palestinian group, who a lot of it is funded? Half the terrorism, half the war, the majority of the war, is funded and orchestrated by Iran. So why is it when you say that you don't like Iran, you agree that they're holding the country hostage and that they're backing and funding all this terrorism, they're causing the mayhem in the Middle East? Why is it that you've never actually had that conversation with probably the people that can more likely do something to shift the support away? So while still fighting for Palestinians, but saying, hey, I know that Iran's not the good guys. Why do you think you've never had that conversation with your people?
Maybe I will. Maybe I need to.
I think you should. I think you should, and I hope for your sake that they don't turn violent on you because they tend.
No, no, come on, no, they won't turn violent on me. No, I don't think they will. Because I have spoken to a few people saying like, oh, like, that they're carrying the Iranian flag because they believe that Israel will be the country that saves their country. And before the Iranian regime,
What about when
Iran
you
used to
see
be
what?
allied.
Yeah, what about when you see Islamic Revolution? Islamic whatever it's called, the Islamic the Iranian Islamic
No,
regime's
I have
flag
been.
in your side. What do you do?
So, so there's a protest. I don't know if you call it. It's called Al Quds Day,
Yeah, I could say
uh,
yeah.
which is actually what the Ayatollah of Iran is, his like version of the Jerusalem Day.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I did go to that protest, and at the end of the protest, I saw many people holding the picture of the Ayatollah towards the pro-Israelis. So I did say to them, "Why are you holding a picture of somebody that would?" Especially, I went up to a girl. I go, "This person would kill you if you were in their country." But a lot of them just ignored me. So.
Why? Why do you think that is that they don't care?
Because those people that were on the Al Quds March are pro-Iranian regime people.
I know, and so 90% of the pro-Palestinian movement. And doesn't that say something to you? And do you really want to be aligning yourself to them, even if you stand up in support of the Palestinian people? Just like, I guess, the United Arab Emirates support the Palestinian people, but they don't support the Iranian Islamic regime.
I just think that not most of the pro-Palestinians are not. They don't know what's happening in Iran, and if they did, I don't think they would support what the
Really,
Ayatollah.
it's like when you see in the pro-Palestinian movements the queers for Palestine. And when you ask them about Hamas, they'll refuse to condemn them. And you can read between the lines, they may not directly say they support Hamas, but they do. And we find that odd, but it's the same thing. The idea that you, as a queer for Palestine, support an Islamic extremist group that would throw you off a building is irony at the highest level. It's insanity. And the same for those that support the Iranian. It's the same thing. But the Iranian regime and Hamas, yes, one Sunni, one Shia, whatever, but they are both cut from the same cloth. It's Islamic extremists with a slight different flavor, and they support each other. So why do you attend rallies? And why did you attend? You knew you attended Al Quds rally. That was the Iranian
But
government.
the block that I was part of, it was kind of like we just used the fact that the police allowed us to protest. So it was heading towards the BBC. So we used that as because it was an opportunity for us to convey our own message. So we were kind of separate.
So
But that's what I said.
so you're happy to align yourself with the
No,
Iranian
man, stop saying that
terrorist
to me. No,
regime.
don't get me
Just
arrested in the UK. Stop it.
no one knows who you are, but I'm not. No, you're clearly stating. Hold on, you're clearly stating you don't
Yeah.
support. Unless you're lying to me because you don't want to get
Nah,
arrested.
man, come on, stop
Okay,
it.
no. So I'm accepting you in what you're saying to me, but then what you're saying is the only reason why you 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 went to the rally is because you wanted to use their planned protest to push your own message. So you're happy
Yes.
to align yourself with a terrorist regime if you can get your own agenda out, which is what? Anti-Israel.
No,
What was your agenda?
that's one perspective. That's the one
What
perspective
was
you
your
could
agenda?
take.
What was your agenda?
So I saw that it was the Al Quds March in London, and they were heading towards the BBC, and I saw a group that I follow, that is healthcare workers for Palestine. So and I was like, oh, let me join their group, and we can protest at the same time. So I get what you're trying to say, that we used that as an excuse and aligned it, like we were part of their protest, even though we don't. I know, I get your point, but my intentions were not like that.
I'm just saying maybe you need to question your intentions. If you're willing to align yourself with terrorists just because they happen to be pushing that they happen to give you a
I
platform to
think
suit your
also
agenda,
because it
then
was the first time I attended the Al Quds March, so I also wanted to know
but
what.
you knew exactly what it was. You're the one that told me. You know more about it than most of the pro-Palestinians, and you still went. What do you think
For
it does
experience
when you
purposes
join,
too.
when you give numbers to terrorists in the West? Because the Iranian regime is looking at that and they're boasting about the kind of numbers they get at their Al Quds rally.
Oh my god.
So you were part of propping up the Iranian terrorist regime. How do you sleep at night with that?
The silence is loud.
Brother, outside of that,
Hello.
I hope you after this conversation you have a think about it and talk to your pro-Palestinian people.
What are you gonna name your video?
Don't
Pro-Palestinian,
don't join Al
pro-Palestinian,
Quds. That's how I'll name it.
pro-Palestinian goes silent when questioned about Al Quds protest. Can you tell me your user, by the way?
Avi Yemini. Look up Avi Yemini. I've got to actually run Avi Yemini on YouTube. All right, brother.
Avi, okay, bye bye.
We'll talk. If you enjoyed that full conversation from my latest live stream on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and share it far and wide. And then, if you haven't done so already, if you're not on my YouTube, go to my YouTube, but subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell now so you never miss a live stream. You can join me as I'm having these conversations in real time, unedited, unfiltered. Subscribe and hit the notification bell right now.